Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered what makes someone vote, or protest, or even just choose a particular brand of coffee because of what it stands for? Today, we're diving right into the engine room of our political world to break down the science of why we get political. I mean, just think about it. Political action is literally all around us, from casting a ballot to choosing our coffee. It's this massive spectrum of behavior, right? So, what's the common thread here? What are the real drivers that push us to get involved in the first place? So, to really get to the bottom of this, we're going to walk through five, really powerful ideas. Think of each one as a crucial piece of a puzzle. By the end, we'll have a much clearer picture of why people get political. So let's start at the beginning. All right, let's dive right in. Our very first piece of the puzzle, it's all about the individual. It really starts with who you are and what you've got. This is what's known as the Socio-Economic Status model, or SES for short. And the core idea, it's actually pretty straightforward. Political participation isn't just some random thing. Nope, it depends pretty heavily on a person's resources. You know, the time they can spare, the money they have, and the civic skills they've picked up along the way. And the model gets even more specific about what those resources are. It basically predicts that if you have a higher education, a better income, a certain kind of job, you're just better equipped to participate. It makes sense, right? You've got the skills, you've got the confidence, and all that makes you way more likely to be politically active. Okay, so let's try a metaphor here, and we're going to come back to this one. Imagine politics is like a giant supermarket. Well, in this scenario, your socioeconomic status, that's what's in your wallet. It literally determines what political actions you can afford to buy into, whether that's donating money or just having the free time to volunteer. But this is where the model kind of hits a wall. I mean, what if you have a full wallet, but the stuff you want to buy just isn't on the shelves? Or what if no one ever even asks you if you need help? That exact question, that limitation, leads us right into our next big idea. So that brings us to the next layer of our puzzle. It turns out it's not just about what resources you have, it's also about what opportunities are even available to you. And this is called the mobilization model. It basically says, hey, personal resources, that's only half the story. Your participation also completely depends on external stuff, the opportunities that exist in your environment. I mean, think about it. You can't send a petition that no one ever created, right? Or join a protest that was never organized. So the big takeaway here is that we don't act in a vacuum. We have to be mobilized, or not, by parties, campaigns, social movements, you name it. This totally explains why political participation can just skyrocket during a big election, even when people's personal lives haven't changed one bit. It's just that the opportunities to get involved are everywhere. Okay, so let's go back to our supermarket. This model says your choices are limited by what's actually on the shelves. You could have all the money in the world, but if the store doesn't stock what you're looking for, you're out of luck. And let's be honest, you're way more likely to try something new if a store employee, kind of like a campaign worker, comes up and offers you a free sample. Okay, so you've got the resources and the opportunity is there. So how do you actually decide whether to act or not? Well, that brings us to the cold, hard logic of the choice itself. This is where the rational agency model comes in. It's a theory that borrows a lot from economics, and it sees us as, well, rational agents, people who carefully calculate the costs, like our time and effort, against the potential benefits before we decide to jump in. But right away, this model smacks into a huge problem. It's famously called the paradox of participation. Here it is. If the mathematical chance that your one vote will decide a big election is practically zero, then why on earth would a rational person bother? The costs just seem to blow the benefits out of the water. The economist Anthony Downs put it perfectly. He basically said, from a purely rational view, we should all just stay home on election day. And yet, millions of us don't. We vote. So what is missing from this equation? The solution, it turns out, was to add one more thing to the calculation, the D value. The D stands for duty, civic duty. It's that psychological reward, that good feeling you get from just doing your part. And once you add that feeling of satisfaction into the mix, well, all of a sudden, voting starts to look like a pretty rational choice after all. But wait, even our most logical, rational decisions, we don't make those in a vacuum, do we? We're hugely influenced by the people around us, our friends, our communities. And that leads us to the next piece of the puzzle. This is all about social capital, an idea made famous by Robert Putnam in his book Bowling Alone. The theory is all about the value of our social networks. You know, the trust, the shared norms, the connections we have with other people that just make it easier to cooperate and get things done together. And it's really important to know that not all social capital is the same. You've got bonding capital. That's like the super glue that holds your inner circle together, your close friends and family. But then you also have bridging capital, which is what connects you to wider, more diverse groups of people. And you really need both for political action to work. All right, that brings us to our final theory. And this one is fascinating because it helps explain a massive shift in what people even care about politically, especially when you look at different generations. This is the famous postmaterialism thesis from Ronald Inglehart. He argued that something he called a silent revolution took place. See, generations that grew up with the incredible economic security after World War II, they started to take things like survival and safety for granted. And because of that, their whole set of political priorities began to change. You can really see the shift here. You've got older generations who were shaped by scarcity, and they focused on what we call materialist values, economic stability, law and order. But the younger post-materialist generations, they were shaped by affluence, and they started to care a lot more about things like self-expression, quality of life, and the environment. And they also got way more skeptical of authority. So let's go back to our supermarket one last time to tie this all together. The post-materialist is the shopper who walks right past the cheapest generic brand. Instead, they're the ones reading all the labels, looking for that fair trade, organic, or ethical product. For them, buying something isn't just a transaction. It's a political statement. It's an expression of their values. So here's the most important thing to take away from all this. These 5 theories, they aren't fighting each other for the top spot. It's better to think of them as different lenses in a toolkit. To really understand the full, complex picture, you have to look at how a person's resources, their opportunities, their calculations, their social circles, and their core values all mix together to drive them to act. And all this leaves us with a pretty big question for today, doesn't it? In our world of social media, instant digital organizing, but also a lot of economic uncertainty, which of these factors is going to matter most going forward? What will the next chapter of political participation actually look like?